Yo, Alex, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Alex and I have just been sitting in silence in the back room of StreamYard for 5 minutes, um, waiting for this moment to get started. Uh, anyway, first of all, Alex, thank you for coming. I'm Joe, and today we're going to be talking about Snowflake connector with Tinybird that we just launched last week. And yeah, I don't know. I guess Alex, you want to quickly introduce yourself? Like, what's your role at Tinybird? What's your involvement with the connector? Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
tell us all
sure.
about you.
First of all, thanks for having me. It's my first time live streaming, so be take it easy with me, you know. And I'm Alex. I work at Tinybird as a product manager, specifically for the ingest team. So among other things, we've been working really hard on this connectors thing, and we're going to show you the Snowflake one today.
I mean, it perfectly said. Um, I wanted Alex to come on here just because, like, he knows so much more about the Snowflake connector. I talked a little bit about this last week during our launch week recap thing, and now we're going to be spending a lot more time going deeper into it too, and kind of talking about best practices, how to actually use it, what's coming next, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think that about covers it. Is there anything else we want to talk about here? Oh, if anyone has any questions, let us know in the chat. We're going to be keeping an eye on that today too. We'll try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. And I think we should just get to it. Alex, do you want to? I know you got a little slide deck here prepped for us for to kind of talk
Yes,
about.
we are going to keep it short, so don't be scared. It's not a 50 slides deck. Yeah, as you can see, it's like a 5 slides thing, literally. So,
Super long.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
very intimidating.
Okay, so Snowflake connector, right? First of all, we love Snowflake. I've personally used it for the last few years. Is great. It is as good as cloud data warehouses can get, and it unlocks massive value for businesses. As soon as you model like your domains data in there, you unlock data analysis, machine learning pipelines, data science stuff. So that's absolutely great. But there are some use cases where that doesn't fit like that well. You know, as you say in English, you can have the cake and eat it too. That's something you said, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
it is not that it's not that good. It's just simply it's not designed for that. So why a connector? So these use cases are typically interactive, meaning you'll have multiple requests, concurrent requests with low latency requirements, like you have 200 requests per second that must run under 1 second per request.
Mm.
These cloud data warehouse are just not meant or not designed for that. So our approach here is complementing them and provide a nice developer experience for people building data products. So you cannot do anything in Tinybird without data. And we've seen that many customers and users already have their data modeled in Snowflake, BigQuery, or elsewhere. So providing this very easy way, fast way to just bring their data over and build their actual use cases, it's what we're trying to do here. So our
Mm.
vision is one-click setup, meaning if you are using the UI, just a few clicks and you're good to go, or if you're using the CLI, a very streamlined flow. It is fully managed, meaning you don't have to take care of scheduling or triggering the syncs or anything like that. And we are all in for observability. So if you are syncing data and you cannot tell if it's up to date or syncs went well, it's worthless. So we are trying to
Mm.
provide users with information they need to tell whether the data is up to date and last few syncs were okay. So that's why we think we need a connector for this.
I see. So you're
So
saying like data warehouses are amazing for like saving lots of data. Duh. I think we all know that. But the key is like with Tinybird is that it makes it easier to use for like getting real-time insights out of a data warehouse, which can be really slow
yes,
and clunky and
yes,
expensive to spin up for real-time workloads.
yes, it's very typical that if you're a data analyst or something like that, and your boss comes in and say, "Hey, I want to know this thing, and I need these insights," then you can do other queries or analysis, and that's, as I said, it unlocks massive value. But if you want to hook that data into a, let's say, a dashboard or something more interactive, it starts to struggle a bit with it just because it's not meant for that. If you have 200 queries per second, you're going to struggle with it.
That makes sense. Yeah, so scaling up to like production workloads on a data warehouse can be expensive. I love that. That makes so much sense. I know in the next slide, I think we're gonna be talking about more like architecturally why like how that works and how we're able to do that with a data warehouse like Snowflake.
Yes, this is like the very high level diagram of what we've built. And essentially, for every data source that you create that is connected to Snowflake or BigQuery, we spin up a a job in Google Cloud Composer for you, so it is fully managed. We unload data from your instance of your BigQuery or your Snowflake instance into GCS, Google Cloud Storage, and then we load that data into Tinybird by using the API, where you can just send files from remote URLs.
So is it
This is
exporting
just,
CSV files from
yes,
Snowflake
that's what we
into
are doing.
Tinybird?
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes, but
So basically just
fully
use the
managed.
API. Amazing. So yeah, you could schedule the sending of all the data over, take care of all that for you. Okay. Awesome.
Yes, it also has a few other benefits, like we handle security and isolation for you. We handle schema evolution for you, so you do like backwards compatible changes to your source table or view. Will like adding a new column will add that to your Tinybird data source in the next run. So we take care of the details for you. Thing is, we want you as a developer to just focus on your actual use cases.
I love that. That makes so much sense. This is a cool little diagram. I just love these. Did you put this together?
Absolutely not. Yeah, I have to thank the marketing team for this, as usual.
Alex, you're good at a lot, but not putting together beautiful diagrams.
Absolutely not.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. All right, cool. Let's see here. And again, if anyone has any questions for Alex, just let us know in the comments. We'll be taking questions all day today. But I'd love to see how this works. Can you give us a little demo?
So demo time, right? Okay, so this is the Tinybird dashboard for our workspace. For those of you that have not tried Tinybird yet, this is the dashboard. We have two main concepts here. We have data sources. You can think of them as tables. And then we have pipes, where we use plain SQL language to transform data and publish endpoints. So the first step will be creating a new data source and choosing Snowflake as the source. So you're using the Snowflake connector, right? So I already have a connection ready, but let's create a new one from scratch. Okay. So you will have to enter here your Snowflake username as password. I'm going to use my personal credentials, but you'll typically want to use like a service account or something like that. And then you need the Snowflake account identifier. This is a bit tricky. We link to the docs here, but it's easy to get if you go here and you just copy it. So you can paste it here. It's not like very obvious, but this is the account ID you need to set up, okay? So after that, you connect to your Snowflake database, and you will be presented with the available roles and warehouses. Warehouses in Snowflake have different sizes, like clothes. So you have extra small, small, medium, large, and so on. And we show those sizes here, so you can choose the right one. So you have to choose the role you want to use for the connection and the warehouse you want to use to run the unload jobs in Snowflake. And then we generate this SQL snippet for you. It's personalized with the role and so on, so you can copy it and paste it here in Snowflake. This creates the needed resources that we use to unload data from Snowflake into Tinybird by using this CGS bucket is scoped just for your workspace, so your data is always isolated, and you just have to enter here the database you need to connect. Okay, so very important. You have to run this as an admin because Snowflake is like a zero trust product, which is great. So you may need to ask your DBA to run this for you. So run it, and we're good to go. Okay. So after running this, we just have to like name the connection, like string demo, for example. That's it. So now we're connected, you can choose the resource you need from Snowflake. It introspects like the available databases, schemas, and table and views, the objects. So for example, let's bring the products dimension. For example, this is just an example. Okay, so this table represents e-commerce products like our tiny shop. We are selling t-shirts and swag, so this will be hypothetically the products we have on the tiny shop. And then finally, you can choose if you just want to import this data once. This is the one-off thing, or if you want to sync this every some time. So if you choose interval, you can say, hey, I want to sync this every hour, for example.
And so this would be like how fresh you want your data from from Snowflake to be. Is that right? Data freshness.
Yes, you can go as low as 5 minutes by default.
Okay. Is there any additional cost with that? Like, do we get charged for processing or additional storage on that, or is that like why wouldn't someone use every 5 minutes? You would be.
Yes, you'll be charged in Snowflake for running the unload query, and you'll be charged in Tinybird for importing this data as processed bytes every time. So
I see.
Use it, responsibly.
To your discretion. Yeah, I know. That's always the thing with real time, right? Is like figuring out how fresh is real time for your use case, and the answer is it depends, right? Like it depends on whatever product you're building. It's like assess the needs of whatever you're building to see how fresh you need that from a data warehouse.
Yes, and this is especially the case of this example we are going to see in a minute, which is using a dimension you have modeled in your company's data warehouse, and you want to bring it over to Tinybird to enrich an actual streaming use case. We'll see that in a minute. So these dimensions don't usually change like that often, maybe a few times a day or even once a day or something like that. So let's say I want this like every hour is good enough for me for this example. Okay. You can even use cron expressions, which is sort of standard. And you can choose if you want to run a populate when you just create the data source, or if you want to wait for the next scheduled run. That's it. So let's create it. You're presented with a preview of the data we are bringing in. As I said, these are articles we are selling in the tiny shop, for example. Let's name it, blah, 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 and you can just create it.
I wish we were selling a magenta sweatshirt or gold jacket. I hope real gold. Also, I want to highlight on there too the schema builder on there. Like as you're importing data in from Snowflake, Tinybird automatically detects the data types and names of the columns and builds it for you.
Yes, that's a very good point. We introspect the object schema in Snowflake, and we translate those types like, strings, ints, and so on into the types we use at Tinybird, which are mostly ClickHouse types. So we map that for you as well.
And Alex, we have a question here I want to populate or get in front of you. It's related to Snowflake, but not exactly what we're on right now. But Graham was asking what magnitude of performance increase with Tinybird do we get with latency? Like, I think they're asking for more like concrete numbers about what you get with Tinybird.
This is a great one for actual use case that we have for one of our clients. We have 300 queries per second that run under 1 second per query by contract. We have an SLA in place for that, and that's the performance you will expect for, like, let's say, connecting your dashboard or your interactive service to Tinybird and publish your data using it. So you'll have, typically, it depends a lot on your query and others details, but typically sub-second query times are very feasible, and you will be in the range of hundreds of queries per second. So this is like the general numbers we usually get.
It's so tricky. I know. I like in database performance numbers are always super, like, the question everyone asks too. And the answer, which Alex, you gave perfectly, is it depends. I always, and it really does. Like, it depends on your schema. It depends how big your warehouses are. It depends how many concurrent warehouses you have. It depends on what you're doing with that data. As we all know, data warehouses are great for saving tons of data and accessing it, but they tend to be, the trade-off is they're a little bit slower. But yeah, it depends on how you've configured it, but you can expect, because and you're bringing it into Tinybird, you're bringing it into memory, you're bringing it into ClickHouse, right? So you're able to access and use that data much more easily than you would in a data warehouse.
Yes. So while this syncs, the first time takes 1 or 2 minutes. Let me introduce like the example use case we are going to build here. Okay. So this kind of simulates the tiny shop, the swag shop. So we have 3 data sources here that are coming from Confluent Cloud. There are Kafka topics, and we have orders, page views, and user registrations to the shop. So for example, orders will be, hypothetically, we don't have this much orders, right? But hypothetically, the orders we have in the tiny shop. Okay, so you can see it's running in streaming right now, live. So we are receiving events. And what we want to do here is creating a new use case where you can just list which items we are selling the most in our tiny shop. So in order to do that, let's create a new pipe. As I said, pipes are the way to transform your data and publish endpoints by just using plain SQL. So let's say top sold items, something like that, right? And then we can, it already exists. Sorry, my bad. Yes.
Forgot to delete that one.
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, top sold items. Okay, so we can select like the orders, right? So these are the events we are getting from this Kafka topic in Confluent Cloud. So for example, let's say we just need like I don't know, item ID, item ID, and maybe the sum of units that we are selling. Okay, so I think these are all the units, and we're grouping this group by item ID. Okay, so these are the units we are selling per item. Since this is just a generator for the demo, it's we need to run this, so it makes sense. Okay. And then we can always filter, like, let's say we want to filter data for today. So for example, date of timestamp for the event. Let's say this has to equal which date is today? 26?
Yep.
So these are the events for today, for example. Cool. Okay, so let's call this, I don't know, filter orders, for example. And then this is the way pipes work. There are some, if you know Jupyter notebooks or some other notebooks, you can divide your script or your process or your query, in this case, in steps. So it's a lot easier to understand and debug and so on. So you can always query the result of the previous node and divide your logic in nodes, which makes it a lot easier. So, for example, here runs the query on top of this in real time. I mean, we don't have to run the first node again to have fresh results in the second one. So, okay, so what is this item at all. We don't know. So
We don't know.
we don't know. So that's why this use case makes sense, because we can join this with the products dimension we have on Snowflake. So we can just join this. We'll use an inner join, for example, with our products data source. And this is A and this is B, for example. So we can just join this by A. This is ID, if I remember correctly, and this we don't know. So this is a great UX thing that you can click here, and you can see like what's the schema. It hasn't run yet. Let me use the other one that has run for a few times now. So if you click here, you can see the actual data source. So you see, okay, so this column is ID in this case. So the join works. Let me close this. And then after joining it, we now just order this by, let's say, the units from in the sending order. And let's keep just a few attributes. Let's say we want the ID, assign ID, sorry. And we want the name as well. Let's say the photo also. And why not the price, right? Finally, the units that we are selling. And oops, name. This has to be uppercase. Okay. So now we have the same use case. This will be the item we are selling the most. And now we have its price, its name, its photo URL, and the units we are selling today. Just as an example.
I just want to let's just take a breather here. I just want to recap what you just did real fast.
Yes.
So you were able to take in a Kafka stream of orders happening in real time. And then we were able to use our Snowflake connector to hydrate that data with our product information that we have in the data warehouse.
Yes.
And then we're able to make a brand new, we're able to join those two together in Tinybird and then get these results super quickly from both the data stream and Snowflake.
Yes, this is a very typical use case we see a lot, where you have streaming data and you want to enrich it with dimensions that you have modeled in your data warehouse. So this is just a typical use case to illustrate what this connector can do for you.
That is amazing. Yep, I love that. That's super helpful.
So
and that's something you can't do with just Snowflake, right? Like we can't making use of that data or multiple kinds of data in one place is super hard to do without building your own custom tooling.
You could bring your Kafka data into Snowflake and then do the join there. But the thing is, if you want to publish this, so you want to use a dashboard or interactive service, you cannot just publish this information by just using Snowflake. So this is where the magic happens. You can just create the endpoint here in the node that we are using, the second one, and that's it. We have this endpoint that includes the information that we just built. This is a bit small, maybe, but
no, that's amazing. Which I love. I still this is one of my favorite things, right? So we're able to combine multiple data sources, including real-time data stream and a data warehouse, and then we're able to make an API. And we're taking a leisurely pass at this, and it took 10 minutes for us to do this.
Yes, and it's updating at the pace that events arrive. This information is updating, so there's no cache or there's no anything. It's just real time. These numbers change just by refreshing the page. Okay.
Right, because we've got that Kafka streaming in data in real time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Wow. So here you have the endpoint, and this is something you can just use. So
Yeah,
I forgot to say that you have these insights here, so you can know how many requests you're having to this endpoint you just created and how much data is processing, so on. Typical stuff.
which is important because you're not billed for the amount of data you save in Tinybird. You build on just the
Yes,
amount of data you
yes,
use.
yes. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, so bring that data in and then try to get useful insights out of it.
Yes. So before we see how to use the CLI for this, do we have any other question or anything you just want to add here?
I'm curious if you could talk about security on the API endpoints. Like, how do you, if we could just cover that really quickly, how do I manage? Because like I'm sure if I'm building an API like this, I don't want everyone seeing all this analytical data uh,
Yeah, that's a great
publicly.
one. That's a great question. When you create the endpoint for the first time, we do create a token for you, so it only
Okay.
has permissions to read this specific endpoint. You can handle your own. You can admin your auth tokens here, and you can
Mm,
create a new one. Let's say test token or dashboard token or whatever test token, and you can say, hey, I want this token to have access to items sold, just to read it. So blah 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 blah
I
blah blah.
see.
You just
Yep.
create it. So now you have
Done.
this token that only has access to this specific endpoint. So by using tokens
Oh,
is how we handle security here.
okay, good. I still haven't figured that out yet. Thank you. That was just a question for me personally.
Yeah. And
Um,
if
and I'm also curious too about other use cases for this. So we covered this is a great e-commerce
yes.
example. What other like use cases could be useful for the Snowflake connector that you've seen or you think might be useful?
Uh, as I said, enriching streaming data is a very common one, but it's not the
Hmm.
only one. For example, it's also very useful that you already have like an aggregated table in Snowflake where you have your metrics already calculated, and you show that to someone in your team, and they say, "Hey, this information is great. I want this information in an internal application or elsewhere." So if you try to connect your applications directly to Snowflake and run these multiple queries per second and so on, as we just said, it will struggle a bit. So if you move this or import this aggregated table into Tinybird, it's a great publication layer for your metrics and insights that you have already modeled in Snowflake. That's another very
Mm,
typical use case.
that makes sense. And one other question before we jump into the CLI. I like the only constant in databases is change, right? Like our data model is going to change, our business use cases are going to change. What happens if there is a schema change in Snowflake? What happens to Tinybird if I change anything over there?
Yeah, that's a great one. If it is a backwards compatible change, let's say, like
Okay.
adding a new column, it will be added in the next run. If I go to Snowflake and I create a new column, in the next sync job that we run, it will create automatically the new column for you in
Mm,
Tinybird as well. But if you do non-backwards compatible changes, such as dropping columns or renaming them, it will fail because the schema we have in Tinybird will no longer match the data you have in Snowflake. This
okay.
is,
That makes
for following a sort of standard, but maybe at some point we will introduce this feature where columns also disappear. But for now, they don't.
okay. Nope, that makes sense. And if anyone has any questions, just let us know in the comments. We got some great questions so far. Um, but yeah, I would love to see how to manage this on a CLI. Like using the GUI on the web app is amazing. But like as a developer, I definitely use the CLI for like managing deployments and whatever. How can
Yeah,
we do that with Tinybird?
yeah. Workspaces are also data projects for us. So you
Mm,
can have these resources in a Git repository, let's say, and handle it as any other software project, let's say. So for this example, I'm be using VS Code, and I've just cloned locally in my laptop the project we have in this workspace. And now we can do the same thing we just did in the UI by using the CLI, the command line interface. So the first thing we did was creating the Snowflake connection. So that's something we can do here as well. So it is as easy as said, okay, so TV connection create, and here you will see the available options. So you can say, hey, TV connection create a Snowflake in this case. Sorry, let me move it. Okay. Okay. So as we did before, we have to enter the username and the password and the account ID for our Snowflake account. So this was ours. Optionally, you can select the role you want to use for the connection. Oh, sorry. And the warehouse as well. Connection name, just CLI, for example. It provides you the same snippet we saw before. You can copy, paste, and run this, and the connection is good to go. So validating connection, good enough, it's created. So you can see here this new file where we obviously don't include the password here, but you have all the other details, so you can handle this connection here. So if we now wanted to create a new data source from Snowflake, we need to create a new .data source file. We have here this example from before, so let's just duplicate it and rename it as CLI, for example. So we'll be using the same schema because we are using the same Snowflake data source, and we just change its name, and we can change the connection we are using. So we now need to use this connection we just created. We can run this every 5 minutes. And this is the import query. You can do some tweaking here, like casting to other types and so on, but let's just keep it simple. So you create this .data source file, and now you can push it using the CLI, push data source products CLI, and that's it.
Wow.
So now this data source is created here as well. If I just refresh the page, product CLI, and it will run, it's syncing, so in a minute it will include the records we saw before. And when it has been running for a few times, you will see here the history as well. You can even see the detail logs here as well.
So tell me, like, what are some of the benefits as a developer for using the CLI?
So for me, the CLI works on top of a data project, and that's what we have here. And for me, the main benefit is from now on, this is the source of truth. So if you change the pipe, you will have to change the query here, commit changes, push them to a repository. Maybe someone has to validate or approve them. So for me, the CLI is great for more production-like workflows where you have to have a source of truth, change of approval, and these kind of things. It's more predictable, let's say.
And you could put your data sources and pipes under source control. You could roll back if there's an issue. You can reproduce those environments in staging and development and production environments. And it can make it easy to collaborate across multiple devices too. And like the UI is amazing too. It's great, especially if you're new to getting started with it. Go and use that. That's great too. But this makes it super easy to scale up for production use cases, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Also, the developers always have this taste of this feeling that they prefer using this CLI and these terminals and so on. So
Yep.
that's your choice.
I love that. That's amazing. Okay, cool. And again, if anyone has any questions, let us know in the comments. We'd love to answer these too. This has been super helpful. Okay, let's see here. I know we've been we've been talking a lot about Snowflake today. I'm curious, is there like, what else do you think developers need to know about the Snowflake? Is there anything we've missed here about like how data is being imported in, upserts?
Yeah, for me, there's something very important that we missed, and you'll see that here. If you create a new data source, you'll see that options here, it's the strategy. So for now, we only have the replace data strategy for the V1 of the connector. This means every single run will copy the whole data source from Snowflake into Tinybird. It's like an atomic or idempotent operation every single time. It's great for fault tolerance, but it's not that optimal for large tables and so on. So we're working on the append mode, and this will be coming soon. This means we have a limit, a default limit for this, and it's 50 million rows for now. So this is an important limit to keep in mind. We can import the tables from Snowflake up to 50 million by default. If you need more than that, just shoot us an email and we'll see your use case and probably enable that for you. But by default, it's 50 million.
Okay, good to know. If they do go over, do you have any recommendations for folks? Should they contact Tinybird? Should they spin up another warehouse or another workspace? Excuse me, or is it just like does not work right now?
So I didn't quite understood that last one.
Oh, I guess I'm just asking, like, if they do have a use case where they have over 50 million rows of data in Snowflake, do you have any recommendations for what they should do? Like, or is it just we don't support that right now?
Not by default. Again, the default limit is 50 million rows, but if you have a use case that needs to go over that, just let's talk. As we have the Slack community, we have the email, just shoot us an email and let's review your use case. We'll probably can do something for you. But you have to set limits for SaaS.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so let's say like someone has a Snowflake warehouse, interested in potentially playing around with this. What would you recommend for somebody in that who wants to get started? What should they do?
In Snowflake, you mean, or in Tinybird general?
Either, right? Like, so, like, yeah,
Either.
someone wants to try the Snowflake connector. How should they do that?
I do think they have a free trial, so you can create a new Snowflake account and bring your data there, or just bring it to Tinybird, and then you can just create your account if you don't already have one in Tinybird. Create a new workspace and just use the connector. It's available for everyone now. You have to enter your credentials and just copy or import your data from Snowflake. It should be easy. I mean, just creating a new account and you're good to go.
I totally agree. I just played around with this for the first time last week before our launch demo, and I did the same thing. Snowflake's got a 30-day free trial. I just signed up, imported some data in, and then hooked this up too, and was able to start playing with it immediately.
But it's probably like more interesting for folks that already have their Snowflake account and their data in there,
Oh, totally. And I know we have a blog post. I should pop that up here too. If anyone wants to read more, kind of like digging into like what, here we go. I'm going to post it in the comments and I'll stick it up here. But it has we can dig more into like how this works too. if you want to check that out, for sure, go read that blog post too. We'll be posting more too with some more demos and walkthroughs for how to do this. But for sure, check out our documentation too. We have lots of places to go there too. And also, as always, I'm going to put a plug in too for the Tinybird community. We have a Slack channel. It's the best place to go to get all your questions asked about Tinybird, or if you're trying out the Snowflake connector and having issues, for sure reach out there. And one of our engineers or one of our developer advocate like myself will be reaching out and trying to help you through that problem. Okay, cool. Let's see here. I think that's about it. Is there anything else you wanted to cover here today?
Not really. You know, we have the public documentation in our website, so if people just want to try this, they can read the detailed documentation about it. We have the blog post. We have the resources you need to get started in the webpage.
Yes. I'm going to post a link to our Snowflake documentation as well. It's located here on the screen here too, but if you go to the docs and just go to ingest, we have a whole Snowflake section that walks through how to do this and basically covers everything we covered here today. All right, cool. I think that's it. I just want to thank everybody for coming. We had amazing engagement today. I'm thankful for everyone who's asking great questions. Looks like we lost Alex. But thanks to Alex for coming along on the there he is, he's back.
I pushed the wrong button, you know, in the sorry about that.
Hit that. No, you're good. Well, you'll forgive you. I was just saying I wanted to thank you for coming on today too and talking about this. I know this is super cool. I think integrating like real-time data streams with a data warehouse is something that's been super hard to do, or required very custom code to get that done, and now it's super easy to do.
Yeah, we've seen lots of people building specific ETL processes and lots of stuff, complicated stuff, just to do this, bring data into Tinybird. So what we are trying to do here is making this process as easy, fast, and reliable as possible, you know?
Yep. I love this. And we would love your feedback too. If you have any like thing you'd like to see, any connectors you'd love to see in the future, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the community channel. I think that's it. Alex, again, you did amazing today too. I'm super impressed. I could not do a technical live stream in my second language. So I'm very impressed with you. So kudos to you.
Third language, actually, you know, we have Galician here as well. So yeah.
Wow, even more impressive.
Not flexing, but you know.
But it's impressive. Good for you, man. You did a great job. All right, cool. And then Alex, I'm gonna stop the stream here. Don't go anywhere yet. But thanks for everyone for coming, and you're amazing. Join us next week. I think we're gonna be doing another live stream next week. Keep an eye out. Go to the Tinybird website to find out more, and follow us on Twitter. And we'll see you later. All right, bye everyone.